Boker Tov, Shavua Tov, Good Tvach. Today's Daf is Daf Yomi and Bava Kama, as we learn for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and Sunnah Tzar V'Shivya. Now, we'll start from the top of the page. Actually, we could start about 7 lines from the bottom of Testament Bays, where it's the beginning of the Sugya. Tana Rabbanan, Chomer B'Shor B'Bor. Gemara is going to give a bunch of things that cases where there's a stringency in one case over another. We had Shor, Bor, Mavra, and Hever in our Mishnah. Shor that we're talking about here is the shore of Keren. Shor also encompasses Shein Beregel, which are more Metchilasa, but here we're dealing with the Keren part. So we do says Chomer B'Shor B'Bor. A shore has a stringency. The Keren has a stringency over the case of a pit. Chomer B'Bor B'Shor. The other way works also, that Bor has a stringency over shore. Chomer B'Shor B'Bor Shehashor Mishan Sakofer. If a shore kills a shore mu'ed kills a person, he pays the value of the person to the family. And whereas Bor does not. Now, said Bor doesn't pay at all if a man falls in there because he should have watched where he was going. Shor below Adam, Chamor below Kalim. So a shore, the concept of shore, the nezik that shore pays, the Karen pays kofer, and he's chai b'shloshim levin. If he kills in every county, he pays 30 shekels to the owner. Nigbar Dino, let's say after he was convicted, the animal was convicted of killing a person, Asur, the owner can't have any annal from it. The dark, these are characteristics of Karen. The dark the tendency is it's normal for the animal to go and do damage elsewhere. The animal's got legs. Mashing of a boar. A boar has none of these characteristics. Doesn't pay kofer if the man falls in there and dies. Doesn't pay shloshim b'leved. And there's no din on a boar. Obviously, it's no nigbardino. It's not a human being. It's not a living thing. That's etc. There's no isur and I know there, and it doesn't go anywhere. It's stationary because it's bar. Chumra bor shore. Bor has a chumra over shore. Shabor tchilas nezik. It's made right from the beginning, from its inception. It's only made to do damage. An animal is not. We're not talking about chain break. We're talking about Karen. Karen, an normal animal, does not necessarily gore. Umud mitchilaso. And the boar is not only made for damage, but it's considered damaging from the beginning. It's like a mu'ed. It's not something that has to be trained a few times or gets warning. As soon as it's made to do damage. These things don't apply to boar. Now we're at the top of Yud, where the Gemara continues. Chomer, very top. Chomer b'shor b'veish. Shor has chomer over the damage done by fire. Chomer b'veish b'shor, and the verse is true. Chomer b'shor b'veish. What's the chomer that shor has over Eish? Shor Mishan Kofer, again, like the same case that it has over Bor, that it pays Kofer if it kills a human being, if it was a mu'ed. And you have to pay the value of the owner to the family. V'chayev b'shloshim shlev. The same thing, you have to pay 30 shekels to the owner if he kills your Eved Kamani. The same thing that once the animal's been found guilty in court, can't have enough from it. And another advantage or characteristic that the shore of Karen has over Aish is that muscle l'chev of a cotton. We had this yesterday. If you gave like a coal, a hot ember to a chev of a cotton, you're not really responsible because if you just left it there, it would have cooled off. But if you give your shore to chev of a cotton, where shore is a mu'ed and goes and does damage, chayev. Mashkin be'aish. Aish, you're not chayev in that case, as we said. If you have an ember that would just cool off, you're not responsible if the chev that you gave it to goes and does damage with it, because he was the one who fanned it and made it into a fire. Whereas the animal does damage on its own. As soon as you give it to a chev of a cotton, the animal will run away. It's capable of escaping and doing damage, and you should have known that. Chomer b'eish b'shor, a stringency that fire has over Karen. She'eish mu'edes b'tchilasa. Fire is a mu'ed mitchilasa. It's not like it's got to be warned a few times. Fire, well, it's not made to do damage. L'chadchila could be used for something instructive like cooking, but it's a mu'ed to do damage from the beginning. Mashkein b'shor. Shor is not a mu'ed l'chadchila to gore with Karen. Chomer b'eish and bor. Now the other two, Aish and bor, and chomer bor b'eish. Chomer bor b'eish. What's the chomer that bor is over Aish? Again, it's made. Its inception, it's made for nezik, whereas Aish is not necessarily made for nezik. It doesn't go elsewhere. Again, if you put a bor in the under the guard of a chev of a cotton, that's not really guarding it in your chayev because it's going to do damage. Mashik and Aish, as opposed to Aish, doesn't have these two characteristics. Okay, so we said that And chomer b'eish b'bor. What's the chomer that eish has a bor? Eish dark leil chazik goes damage elsewhere. Fire spreads, the bor does not. And not only that, fire consumes everything, whether things that are fit for it, we'll see, like wood, or things that are not fit for it. We'll see what that means later on. Things that are not fit. A bor is not a mu'id for things that it's not fit for. For example, we said shor below adam, chamor below kaleb. A bor is not chayiv for a person if a person fell in there. So it's not chayiv for that. Whereas fire is roy for everything. It's mood for everything. We'll see if you're chayiv in all cases, but it's mood for everything. So now the Gemara says, okay, fine. You've dealt with shor versus bor, and you've dealt with bor versus shor. You've dealt with shor versus aish and aish versus shor. And then now what about dealing with? Then the last one was bor versus aish and aish versus bor. Going back to the beginning. Let's say chomer b'shor bor, the very first one. We said chomer b'shor bor. We said it has several things. That it's pays kofer, chayv b'shoshim shalevik, mardino, and darkol lechazik. There's another one. Why you're only limited to those four? Let's say chomer b'shor bor shashor chayv bo asakalim. If a shor, again with his keren, damages kalim, vessels, clothing, whatever, chayav mashing b'bor, because we learn out v'nafal shama shor chamor. If you chiv techlishbor v'nafal shama shor chamor, shor below adam, chamor below kalim. You're not chayiv him, so why don't you list it also? Shor is chayiv on kalim, bor is not. The answer is Hamani Rabbi goes like Rabbi the chayiv on this kalim bor. Rabbi disagrees with that limud, and he says yes, you're not chayiv on adam, but you are chayiv on kalim. It's because you can't say shor has a chumrah over bor that it's chayiv on kalim whereas bor is not, because bor is also chayiv on kalim or according to Rabbi. It says more no, Rabbi Yehuda. How could it be Rabbi Yehuda? Even the Sefer says chomer b'shor v'chomer b'eish b'bor, the last part of the brisa. That Aish has a chumrah over bor, she'esh darkle lechazik, the fire does damage. And it's a mu'id. In other words, you can assume that it's going to do damage to things that it's fit for and things that it's not for. Mashe and came before, whereas a bor not. Davaroilo, what's Davaroilo? Maninu eitzim, right? Davaroilo is eitzim that it's going to consume fire. Fire will convey to the variation. La manu kalim. Doesn't that mean kalim? That means to say that Aish has a chumrah over bor because it damages. It's a mu'ay to damage both things that it's fit for. What does fire fit to damage? Wood, obviously. Fire consumes wood. And Davashain Moila, we assume that means kalim. Mashain came to kalim. Now, what do you mean Shain kalim? According to Yehudi, chayiv on kalim too. Mashain came to bor. Bor is not chayiv on kalim. Rabbi Yehuda Amrit Machayev Rabbi Yehuda. He said Rabbi Yehuda says you are chayiv on kalim before, so it can't be Rabbi Yehuda. So if Davashain Rolla is kalim, then it doesn't make sense to say that Aish is chayiv on kalim, Davashain Rolla, whereas bor is not. Bor is chayiv on kalim according to Yehuda. Elolam, so it can't be Rabbi Yehuda. Elolam, it goes like Rabbanan. So if it's like Rabbanan, so we had a good kasha. Why don't you say chomer b'shomer bor? Why? Because you're chayiv on kalim, whereas on bor you're not. The answer is v'tanav b'shar. You're right. You left out something. Elolam Rabbanan. The ton of a shire. In other words, when he listed those four, he didn't list those four. Other things are included also. Now, we always have, whenever the Gemara says in Shas, ton of a shire, where it says, if you left out one, if you listed 9 things, that means only those 9. If you left out a 10th one, there must be an 11th one too. So you say you didn't have a completely exhaustive list of everything. But if you left out only one thing, you obviously meant to exclude that one. So if you left out one, tell me that you left out 2. So you say it wasn't a complete list. It wasn't a total list. Elohim Rabbani. The ton of a shire, he learned these things. He learned those 4. V'shire, and he left out other ones. My shire, the high shire. What else did he leave out? The high shire. He left this side. Can't just leave out one. If you left out one, you're excluding it. You must have left out something else. Shire Talmud. Left out the case of Talmud. What does that mean? Talmud means a fire. That a fire, you're not a fire. If a fire consumes something, it's a little up from the word gadish. If the fire left out something that wasn't obvious, it was hidden. I mean, the fire that left out. If the fire consumed, if fire burned something that was hidden, you're not chayiv for that. That's what Rashi says. Shire Tamin, Ubor, both shore, which is compared to Aish, and bor, which is compared to Aish, both shore and bor, you're chayiv on that. If a shore kicked or gored a bag full of kalim and they broke, chayiv. Or if a chamor fell into a bor and he had a bag full of food, not kalim, but food, tfua, you're chayiv for that. So bor and a shore are chayiv on something that was hidden, even though it wasn't obvious. It was in a bag of some sort, a sack. Whereas fire, you're putter. The only chayiv on something is visible. So you left out the case of Taman. So you wanted to know, why didn't you list also Chomer v'Shomer v'Bor because of this, right? So you left out, you didn't eat everything. Both bor and shore, both bor and shore are chayiv on Taman, things which are hidden, whereas Aish is not. So you left that out. Taman. I'll tell you, it goes like a Buda. We said, how could it go like a Buda? You said there's a chumrah of shore of Aish over bor, that Aish consumes things which is fit for it, and you're chayiv on things which are fit, things which are not fit for it. Whereas bor is not chayiv on things that are not fit. We assume that things that are not fit means kalim. How could we say you're not chayiv? Rav Yehuda says you're chayiv. But Davishan Roy is not kalim. To tell you this, even things, fire is not going to consume a plowed field, or it's not going to consume stones. It'll just singe them. But whatever damage it does, you're chayiv for that too. And that's what he means to say that Aish is chayiv on that, whereas bor is not. Where there's no chiv of bor on the chanir of sechasiv. What's it going to do there? It doesn't even make sense to include it. So you could say that that a fire is made to consume. A fire is a mu'id to consume things which are fit for it, like wood, or things which aren't fit for it, like stones. It's not really going to consume them. As opposed to bor, which is only things which are going to go fall in there and break. It's not going to break. Not made to consume or to break plowed fields in a bore or stones or things of that. So it can come out either way. Maskul Rav Ashi, listen to Chomer Shal.
So everybody agrees only that it's putter?
The what?
Only. Hidden things.
Yeah, talking on fire. Fire is putter. Right. That there's a machlok.
So if someone is in a barn and he goes in the cellar to get away from the fire,
right,
and he dies from the fire, is that called toning?
No. That's not. First of all, that's the person. If he could have gotten away,
he could have gotten away.
He could have gotten away. That's one thing. And second of all, we're talking here about damage that your fire did, monetary damage. We're not talking about murder. But you're right that if you burnt down if you burnt a barn down, let's say you decided to burn somebody's barn down to destroy it. There was a man in there that died, right? So you didn't purposely kill him, but you killed him b'shogeg. You're a murderer b'shogeg. You killed him call it accidentally, or wasn't really an accident. It was unintentional, but it wasn't an accident. Yeah, that's murder. That's murder. You go into Golos, presumably. Maskul Rav Ashi. And here's another one. Let's say you have an animal which is puzzle, that it's no good for. It became puzzle. It was a hegdish and became puzzle. So you're poded. Now it's yours. It's no longer amongst hegdish. However, there's still some rules. You can't feed it to your dogs. You have to treat it with respect. So let's say here's another case of shore that's chayav over bor. Why? Shore is chayav over shore. In other words, if my animal damaged your animal, which was really a hektish animal that had become unfit, disqualified, I'm chayav to pay you because it's yours. It's your animal now. I have to pay. Mashe came before. Whereas bor, it doesn't apply there. If the animal some fell in there, you're not chayav on bor. Now, why would you not be chayav on bor? If I dug a hole in the ground in the Rishus Harabim and an animal fell in there that was plum dashim, why wouldn't it be chayav? So Rashi explains it's because the pasuk says in that case, "V'hamesi yolo," you'll keep the animal. The animal will be for his. Here he can't keep it because it's psul mikdashim. He can't feed it to his animals. So he says chayav bo shor psul mikdashim. Mashen came before, and that's why by bor you're not chayav. Rashi explains a little bit further up above, but by bor the shor re'eu v'chiv nev shor green be'v apagat v'shor namiksiv hamesi yolo mukmel lekamal lebalam mitap nevela. There, that by shore also says concept, but the Mesi Alo that it says Rashi's a little bit above. Psum Gashin Shinifta, Benafal Babor, Potter Balabor. The owner of the bor is Potter Siv Balabor Yishalem, Mesi Alo, and he'll keep the animal. Yatzazesh Anime Shalo. Dafagaf Nifta, even though he's poted, in Mace, also he can't give to his animal, so he can't really keep it. Mesi Alo means he can keep the animal. Here, in other words, Pasuk says that if I dig a bor, and your shore fell in there and got killed, was the shore deep enough, my shore, and your shore fell in there and got killed, I have to pay to pay for you, and I keep the animal. But I can't keep the animal because it's psul mikdash, and I can't give it. I can't feed it to my dogs or whatever. I can't use it. I can't have enough from it. So therefore, it wouldn't apply. So why don't you list that case too? Here's a case. Maskula Vashi listed back of the Gemara. Maskula Vashi listed chamor b'shor. There's a stringency that shores of a bor. Shor chayim bo shor psul mikdashim. Vashkim b'bor. If I dug a bore, even though I'm a bad guy, I dug a big bore and an animal fell in there and was psul mikdashim, I'm putter. If you dug a bore and I did the Shiur hach, Shiur namiach. Well, according to Rabbanan, we said we already left out other cases. We left out the case of Kalim, that you're chayiv and shore and you're putter on bor. If it goes according to Rabbanan that shore below and chamor below Kalim, the bor is not chayiv on Kalim. Left out that case, and we left out the case of fire, of Taman with fire, that Taman, shore, and bor are chayiv on, and Aish is putter. So we already left out those cases. We left out a third case. El Yam Rav Yehuda. If it goes like Rav Yehuda says what? That you didn't leave out anything. We didn't leave out anything. You just that you can't bring the case of Kalim because bor is chayiv on Kalim, just like Aish and just like shore. Rav Yehuda, my shire. What if you left this out? What else did you leave out? If this is something you left out, I shire. If this shire, it's a shire dash beniro. So I'll tell you what you left out. If the animal, the shore, with his walking and purposely he threshed the guy's freshly plowed field. So you're chayiv over there. Shore is chayiv, and that's a case where shore is chayiv and bor is putter. That's not considered leaving something else. That Tana shekain darkle. If you already included that one of the kumas that shore has over bor is that it goes and does damage. That's one of the ways it does damage. It's not really leaving it out. So therefore, it's better to say. Presumably, the Gemara doesn't give an answer to this. Presumably, it's better to say that it doesn't go like Rabbi Yehuda. It goes like Rabbi Yehuda. Why did you leave this? Why did you leave this one out? Why did you leave out the case of shore psul mikdash? Maybe because it's not frequent. It's very strange, but it's still a case that you could say shore has a chumrah over bor. According to Rabbanan, it's fine. You left that one. You left out the case of Kalim. You left out the case of Tom, and you left that sort out too. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's a little bit difficult. Now the Mishnah said a strange lashon. If you look back in the Mishnah on Testament days, so we've been discussing. We were first discussed this case of kol shachafti b'shemraso sharti it's nisko. Anything when I'm chayiv to guard it, I prepared it for its nezik. In other words, if I was negligent in guarding it, I have to pay. That's what the Gemara was discussing it. It is the case of a shore chamor or a shore that you gave to a shore that you gave over to a chereshet of a katan. That shore boy that you gave it to a chereshet chayiv, whereas Aish you're not. So he gave an example. Then he says, let's say I only prepared part of the damage. Now, this is very important to understand the concept. I prepared part of the damage, meaning I did part of the damage and you did part of the damage. Okay? So in a case like that, it says, I have to pay the whole thing. Now, what do you mean by that? In other words, you started to do something which would cause damage. I finished it. Usually the guy that finishes the job gets credit for it. Not the guy who started to build the nuclear bomb. The guy who finished it, he gets credit for it, right? So that's what the Mishnah says. If I did partial of it, I just completed. I didn't do all the damage. I did part of it. I'm chayiv in the whole thing. Now, what case is that? What's the case we're speaking about? So Tana Rabbanan, Gemara's not going to explain. Tana Rabbanan, if I prepared part of the damage, I'm chayiv to pay all the damage as if I did the whole thing. What's a case like that? Give me a case like that. It's a strange thing. Why should I be? If we both planted the bomb together, we both be chayiv, right? We both did it together. So, very good. Didn't dig it deep enough. Good, excellent. That's what the Gemara says. Ketza, you see, you remember this from 15 years ago. Ketza, hachofer bor tisha. The first guy, the rabbis determined that a boar which is going to kill, if it's 10 tefachim deep. It's not because we assume that, well, if it's that deep, the animal's going to die by it, but it's going to be a bigger drop. Rashi says in our days, it's not the drop that kills, but it's the, let's call it lack of oxygen, the heat that's in there. If it's that deep, like the tunnels, that the boys have to go in now and destroy, if it's very deep, you need ventilation, right? So if it's that deep, it's not good. But the rabbi said, look, if it's less than 10 tefachim, it's, let's say 9 tefachim plus, that's not going to kill an animal. It'll damage him, it'll hurt him, but it won't kill him. If it's 10 tefachim, then it's deep. So what happened was, guy number one, he dug it 9 tefachim deep, enough to damage, not enough to kill. The second guy came and he dug it another tefach deep. That's enough to kill. So that's what we say over here. I did part of it. I just dug one more tefach. I have to pay for the whole thing. That's what the Mishnah said. The Bryce is explaining that case in the Mishnah. This is as if I did the whole thing. Case wasn't the first guy, number one, dug it 9 tefachim deep. The second guy came, Shlima Lasar completed it. Now it's a complete damaging bore. Shlima Lasar, Ha'achron Chayev. The last guy is Chayev. And the Pashut Pshat means Chayev for everything, whether the animal died. See, if you only dug it 5 or 6 or 7 or 9 tefachim deep and the animal died, you're not enough to pay for the death of the animal. You don't have to pay the whole animal. You have to just pay, because that's only enough to do damage, not enough to kill. But let's say the first guy did enough to do damage. The second guy made it enough to kill. According to the Tanakh, according to this, Achron's chayiv on everything apparently, on damages. Or the second guy is chayiv on everything. Not like Rabbi Tanya. Bryce says like this. In this case, Achron chayiv. The second guy is chayiv on everything. Rabbi says no. Achron lemisa. If the animal died, then it's the second guy's fault. The first guy didn't do enough to kill the animal. To kill the animal that was the animal that was damaged. But let's say the animal that fell and got damaged, so the first guy also contributed to the damage. After all, he dug most of the bore. That's what Rebbe says. So we're saying now, l'chora, our mission, which says that if I did part of the damage, I prepared part of the damage, I'm chayv the whole thing. It's not like Rebbe. Rebbe says no. If you dug the second part, the deeper part, you're chayiv only for misa, but you're chayiv for misa, but you're not chayiv for the entire nezikin because the first guy also contributed to the nezikin. Whereas this Brisa says a chover boy tisha b'achar b'shneim lasara, the second guy's chayiv and everything. For Papa Omer, no, you don't have to say that our Mishnah goes not like Rebbe, like the Tanakh there. Papa says we're talking about lamisa. We're saying we're only talking misa. We say I prepared part of the damage. I'm chayiv in all the damage. That means all the damage if the animal died. Maybe Rebbe's right. It's logical, right? If one guy built it 9 tefachim deep, another guy had another tefach, and the animal came in there and broke its leg, so they should both pay. They both contributed to the damage. If the animal died, only the second guy did the damage because the first guy didn't do enough damage to kill the animal. And everybody, some say, maybe it doesn't go like Rebbe. Zamish says you're chayiv, the second guy's chayiv on everything. No, lamisa, our Mishnah is talking about lamisa. And Rebbe's right that for damages, they're both responsible because they both contributed to the damage. But for misa, only the second guy did it. Because only the second guy did enough. Okay, so that's what our Mishnah is speaking about. That's Mishnah. So now we're going to have questions. Is that the only case? Now, again, we're looking for cases where both contributed to the damage, right? We understand this case of the boar. The first guy built it 9 tefachim deep. That was enough to do damage. The second guy did it another tefach. So the second guy's chayav for the misa if the animal died. But we understand that the first guy also contributed somewhat to the nezikin. In other words, there's a chiddush over here, right? There's a chiddush over there. In common law, I don't know what the law would say. One guy did it 9 tefachim deep, and the other guy just finished it off with the 10th tefach. We're saying that the second guy's chayav entirely. Is that totally logical? You could argue that without the first guy digging the 9th tefachim, the 10th tefach wouldn't do much, right? Wouldn't do very much. You could argue that they're both responsible for the death. So the chiddush of our Mishnah is that they both did some cause for damage. That the second guy's chayav based on this idea that the first guy didn't do enough to kill him. Okay, are there other cases? Maskell, Rav Zeiros, these are kashas, but sulaka than others. Wait, I'll tell you another case, and this is Rav Zeiros making up cases on his own. Masar shor l'chamisha. But now, let's say I gave my animal to 5 people to guard. I had an ox that could do damage, and let's say it was a mu'ed even, and 5 people. One of them was negligent. There were 5 people. Let's say the animal was in some place, and there was a circle of 5 people, and one of them was negligent, and he took off. He decided to go out to lunch. And the animal went out there and did damage. Chayiv, he's chayiv to pay. So here's also a case where there's contributory cause, right? Because they're all involved. Why is that a comparable case? If you say without him it couldn't have been watched, that's obvious. That's not a chiddush set. We're telling you a chiddush. The first guy built it 9 tefachim deep the board. The second guy added on. The second guy's chayav. It's a chiddush because the first guy also did some part of the action. Over here, what are you talking about? If the animal without him, it can be watched obvious. If you needed 5 people to guard it, and one guy took off, obviously he's responsible. But he caused the damage. The other 4 didn't do anything wrong. They were there. There was no contributory action on their part. Maybe you'll tell me, no, you didn't really need 5 guys. Without him, could have been guarded too. So Mike, what did he do? If 4 was enough, you didn't need him anyway. What did he do? And if 4 wasn't enough, it's obvious he was the one who caused it. Not the other 4 guys didn't contribute to this at all. So that's not a comparable case of I prepared part of the damage. I have to pay for the whole thing. You didn't do part of it. You did the whole damage by not showing up. Another case, let's say a guy there was a little fire going, and this guy added a lot of twigs to make the fire strong and go somewhere else and do damage. So the fire was started by somebody else, right? And he contributed to it. So you say they both contributed to the damage. Marshall, again, what's the case? Either also, if without him, the fire wouldn't have spread at all because there wasn't enough twigs there to make it go. There wasn't enough fuel. So Pshita, obviously, he did all the damage. It's not like they contributed to it. One guy lit a match. He was on the floor. He wouldn't have done anything. This guy came along and added twigs and oil and did all kinds of stuff. What's it called? Fire. What's it called? Fire. Spread the fire. He spread some oil on it or whatever, right? Fuel. Edablavio also wouldn't have gone. So Pshita, obviously he did the whole damage. Without him, it would have done it. Eldablavio also would have gone anyway. So Mike, what did he do? Where is it? This is not a case of contributory damage. It's a case where he did the whole thing. Maskura Papa, what Papa Vaikar. Now we have a brisa. Vaikar Tanya Willer and Heshi. So 5 guys were sitting on a bench. Below Shavu, it didn't break. It held all 5 people there. One guy, big fat guy, came and sat on it for Shapiro, and he broke it. He was like the Makpadish. The last guy's chayv. So isn't that like a similar case, right? Where 5 guys contributed to it, right? But the 6th guy made it all happen. Going Papa, Papa Barava. I got a friend like that by the name of Papa. His name is Papa. I got a friend, Papa Barava, who was a big fat guy. Rashi is a Baal Bosser, or we call it like a Baal Midos, right? A big fat guy, he caused the damage. So again, if you say without the 6th guy, it wouldn't have broken. So Pshita, he did all the damage. It was made for 5, and the 6th guy came and broke it. Without him, it would have also broken. So Mike, what did he do? In other words, this is not contributory damage. He did all the damage. It was fit for 5, and he was the 6th guy. He caused all damage. So we're so you can't dismiss this case, though, says the Gemara. Okay, maybe you can't include it in our case in our Mishnah, as an example of the case in our Mishnah, but so masnisa. How do you explain the brisa? In other words, forget about, maybe it's not like our case of the Mishnah. You say only the 6th guy did all the damage. But how do you explain the brisa? How does that work? Why is the 6th guy only responsible? So let's read it. The blabi you have a myth for betrayal. Here's what happened. It would have broken, without him, it would have broken. It couldn't hold 5 people either. In 2 hours, it would have broken anyway. Now it broke quicker because of him. The relay, because they tell him, Milavat wouldn't be for you. We could have stayed here another hour. You were the one who broke it earlier. So Valay Malu, so
he was warned not to sit
there. Yeah, well, he was warned. He should. A person doesn't have to be warned. If you do damage, you have to be warned. If I come and I smash your car with my car, you say, I wasn't warned. No, a person is a mu'id for everything. A human being is a mu'id. Animals need to be warned after several times, like a Karen, but a person not. Why can't he tell them? They told, listen, had not been for you, it would have lasted another hour or 2. You came and broke it. Why can't he tell them something? The Rambam, the Gemara takes the scarce out, but we can leave. Let him tell them. Without you, I wouldn't have broken it. You were sitting there all 5. When I come to sit down, you should have gotten up. Why do you say I broke it? You also broke it. Without you, I could have sat there, wouldn't have broken. So let's read it. The Bahadi the Samach Bahu Tavar. Here's what happened. He didn't sit on it. He leaned on them. When he leaned on them, it broke. So then Pshita says, Mao the same Gufo. He didn't sit on it. It wasn't his body. He just pressed down on them. Maybe that doesn't have the same obligation as his guf. Kamashma the Kochel Gufa Dami. That his power, his strength, his force is also like his own body. Because wherever his body breaks it, it's also his koach that's breaking it. So therefore, that's the chiddush over here. In other words, this is not a case like our Mishnah where the first guy did cause part of the damage, the second guy did part of the damage. The second guy did all the damage. But the question over here is, what's the chiddush in that? How do you explain the brisa? Why did the second guy do all the damage? The first guys did it also. The answer is he pressed down on them. Now, the Mepharshim may ask over here, what's the chiddush here? That he pressed down on them? If I throw an arrow, if I shoot an arrow at somebody, that's my koach. I didn't touch the guy, I didn't push up, that's my koach. So he brings down here, it comes to zikin, yes, in general, yeah, when it comes to zikin, if I killed somebody, yes, when it comes to damage, there's a svara to say that my koach is not like my goof. It brings up from his own issue, he points out, I might say, he was leaning on them. Shtaim, he did two things. Number one, he pressed down on the bench, so the bench was under more pressure. And two, he kept them from standing. So it's Masha just he would have been putter. Let's say he wouldn't have pressed down, he would have just prevented them from getting up. It was going to break in an hour. It wouldn't withstand sitting there for a few hours, these five guys. And he prevented them from getting up, he wouldn't be chayav because it wasn't his koach. Because he just prevented them from standing up, and that's only a grumma, and therefore, and grumma and zikin can be potter, right? Therefore, they're all chayav. So that's what he said. That's what he says. If he wouldn't have kept them, if he wouldn't have prevented them, but he would just pressed down on them. In other words, the point over here is he prevented them from getting up, and his koach pushed down on them to add it up. And maybe had he not prevented them from getting up, and they could have gotten up and they didn't get up, maybe they would have all been chayav, because he could say, just like you say, I added on to the weight, you also added on to the weight. When I sat down, you should have gotten up. So that's debatable. So the Gemara, but back to our case, back in Gemara, Vasulek, are there no other cases? Are there no other cases where there's contributory damage on the part of several people, only last guy's chayav? Vasulek of Aika, Padatanya, Iko Asar B'nei Adam B'Samaklos. 10 people were beating a person like a lynch. 10 people were beating a person with sticks. They were sticking him. Whether it was simultaneous, or whether it was successive. The first guy beat him, the second guy beat him, the third guy with mace, and the guy died completely putter. They're all putter because who killed them? Not one person killed him. Who are you going to say chayiv? So you might say the last guy. So the Tanakama says they're all putter. Rav Yehuda says the last guy. If it's successive, he's chayiv because he was the one who finally killed him. He was near death before, after 9 guys killed him. Right? We're not talking about where the 10th guy beat him after death. The 10th guy finished him off. So it's taken as chayav. So there's a case where 9 people contributed, like it's like digging the 9 tefachim, and the last guy finished him off. The Gemara's answer is right. You're right. That's a valid case. But our mission is talking about damage. We're not talking about murder. That's a case of murder. Or I could say even if our mission would include a case of murder, but plukta lo kamairi. We're not talking about a case where there's a machlokas. Because over here it's only Rav Yehuda ben Beseira who says, like you say, the last guy's chayav. In common law, I think they'd all be responsible, right? They'd all be. You say they all committed murder, right? 100 guys killed somebody, they'd all be chayav. But the halacha here goes like the Tanakama that they're all putter. Rav Yehuda says the last guy's chayav. So you could say, why isn't it mentioned in our Mishnah? Why don't you say that's a case that our Mishnah is referring to? Because we're not talking about machlokas. You said the case of digging the 9th fach. First guy dug 9 fachim deep, and the last guy did the 10th one. So he says our Mishnah doesn't go like Rebbe. Rebbe says no, that for Nezikin they both be chayav. Whereas the Tanakhama says only the last guy's chayav, both for Nezikin and for Misa. So that doesn't go like Rebbe. So you say over here it goes like there. You say it goes like the Rabbanan, not like Rebbe. How can you say we're not talking about a machlokes? Anybody said machlokes below? Well, Kim the Rebbe said our Mishnah in the case of the bor goes like the Rabbanan and not like Rebbe, so there's a machlokas there too. It says the lo Rebbe Rabbanan Makmina. There we're going like Rebbe. We don't go like Rebbe. We go like the Rabbanan, who's the majority, because we pass like the majority. Rebbe said lo Rabbanan like Makmina. In other words, we don't want to say that our Mishnah goes like a yachid. When there's a yachid arguing with the rabbin, we don't want to say our Mishnah goes like Rebbe Seir. He's a yachid arguing against the rabbin. But I'm an alf. The case of the 9th fachim and then the 10th tefach built dug by the second guy. There we go like the Rabbanan, not like Rebbe. There we would say we go like the majority. The halacha karabim, the halacha, because the halacha Rebbe karabim, the halacha karabim, the halacha yachad karabim, halacha karabim. As Rashi points out, halacha karabim. Says the Gemara. Now, in this case, in this case where he said, if Sharti mixes Nisko, when I caused part of the damage, like the case where I dug the 10th tefach in the bore, I have to pay the whole thing. He doesn't say chayav chafti benisko. I paid for the damages, but he says chafti betashlume nisko. What's that lashon of tashlume nisko? So the Gemara says, right now we're at the wide lines on the Yoram Beis. Chafti benisko, chafti benisko loktani. And it said chafti benisko. It said, listen, I damaged your car. Okay, I damaged your car. Here's this classic case, what we call in Hebrew, based on foreign language, a total loss. What's a total loss? Total loss is a total loss, right? That's what they say when your car is severely damaged. Now, it's not really. It's a total loss in the sense that they are not going to fix it, right? But the salvage, right? So it's worth something for salvage, right? Parts and metal and things like that. They give it to a salvage guy. So here's the issue over here. It says Chafti benesko lo tani. If it say, listen, I paid for the whole thing. I damaged your whatever your animal fell in there and got damaged, or the animal died, or your whatever it was, your animal fell in there and died. I have to pay for it. If I dug a bore, in this case I dug the 10th tefach, and your animal fell in there and died, I have to pay for the whole thing for your animal, right? The nizik, I have to pay for it. So what do? I pay for the animal. I give you, let's say your animal's worth $100. So I pay you the $100. What about the dead animal? The animal's worth something, salvage, right? You can feed it, turn it into animal feed, or do something with it, right? Use it for fertilizer. I don't know, whatever you do then. Who deals with that? So if it would say chapti benisko, it means I have to pay the whole $100. I pay you the $100. The animal died, I pay $100. What about the dead animal? Who gets to keep that? The masik, presumably, I would. That's if it would say chafti benisko, loktan, that's it. Nisko. I have to make it up. I have to complete it. Meaning, your animal was alive, was worth $100. Now it's only worth $85. Right? So I have to give you $15. I have to give you $85. You still have an animal that's worth $15. It's dead, but it's worth $15 for salvage or for food or whatever. So that's the idea of chafta, because it says I have to pay for the whole thing, right? I dug a bore, I dug the 10th tefach, your animal died in there. That's my responsibility. What do I pay you? $85. You got the dead animal. That's the point. It doesn't say I gave you the $100 and you keep it, right? And I keep the animal, the dead animal. Tanina, this is our mission, which says Chafti b'tashlume nisko. I have to make up the difference, right? You had something worth $100, now it's worth $15. It's dead. I give you $85. So this Mishnah is approved to this that the rabbis learned in the Brisa. Tashlume nezek malamed. Tashlume nezek, the lotion of tashlume nezek, the completing the nezek. Malamed shabalam etapim lebela. The owner, the nizik, you were the owner, the one who's damaged. You have to take care of the dead animal. That is, you got to take that carcass and get your $15 worth. That's your problem. But then how do we know this? Amar Vami. So 3 different drushes. Amar Vami, the Amar Kar, the pasuk says, you know what? If I go and kill your animal, I don't like your animal. It's a cat. It's running around my yard and dirtying things. I shoot your animal dead. I have to pay. I'll take the yishal. Don't say pay. El yashli mena. Why did it say yishal mena? It's a strange lotion. Just say pay for it. Yashli mena. I have to complete it. Meaning, I have to pay the difference. Your animal is worth 100. Now it's worth 15 dead. I pay you 85. Rav Kana learned from this pasuk. Pasuk's really speaking there about the shomer sachar. You were hired to watch an animal. That you're only hired on negligence and gerev and aveda. But let's say something happened beyond your control. A wolf came and tore into your animal. It was something you couldn't. It was considered like an accident. So it says in Torah, if you had prove it, then you're potter. But we dash hatrei for lo yishalim. Notice that the pasuk shot is, if I was paid to guard your animal and it was something beyond my help, a wolf broke in there and killed your animal, tore your animal apart, I bring proof that that's the case, and then hatrei for lo yishalim. So they darshan, that's the pasuk shot. The drush is ad trei for yishalim. I have to pay until the animal that's dead like until that the difference between a live one and a dead one. It's very fast. I don't have to pay the whole animal. Your animal again was worth $100. Now it's worth 85 dead. I only have to pay. It's worth 15 dead. I only have to pay the 85. So that's the drusha there. Again, it's a drusha. It's not the push in the pasuk. Chizki Amar mehacham. This pasuk is about meisi alo. If my shor mu'e damages your shor mu'e, kills your shor mu'e, kills your shor. My shor mu'e kills your shor. It says shalom yishalom shor tachas shor. You got to pay for it. Meisi alo. The meisi alo. Who does the mace belong to? Who does the carcass belong to? To the nizik. To the nizik. That means that you keep the 15 shekel worth dead carcass that's worth $15. And I pay you the 85. Three different rushes, right? We'll see why we need all three. The nizik keeps it. In other words, the one who's damaged, that's the plaintiff in plain English. One who's damaged is suing the defendant. That's the mazik. He has to pay the nizik. The plaintiff has to deal with the carcass. You know, the easiest thing is to say, "You killed my animal. Just give me the $100." No, I pay you 85. I only have to make up the difference. I caused you $85 worth of damage. You still have $15 of value there. You got to deal with it. The Mesio Nizik. Atom Nizik going to the Mazik. Maybe it's really the Mazik. Maybe the Mazik should pay the whole $100 and tell the Mazik, you know, you did all this damage. You take care of the carcass. Amrit lo kacha. That's not the way it is. My lo kacha. What does that mean? The Mazik. If the Mazik has to deal with an avela, let the pasuk just say where my shor mu'e killed your shor. Shor tachas shor v'lishtak. Let it just say that if my shore killed your shore, I have to pay shore tachas shore. I have to pay one animal for another. In other words, pay the value of your animal, $100 for lishta. But meisiolo, why did it say meisiolo? Shema minol nizik. Tell you that it's that the nizik has to deal with it. You might say, logic would say, listen, you know, I killed your shore, pay you the $100 that it's worth, that it was worth originally. No, I only have to pay the difference. But why do you have to have all three of these drushas? The first one of Yishamena, the second one of Tarfira, and meisiolo. It's not normal for a person to go kill an animal. A person doesn't normally kill animals. Animals kill animals that run around, they're wild, right? A person doesn't normally kill an animal. That's not shich. So maybe over there we say the mazik doesn't have to deal with it. We say the nizik has to deal with it. Aval treifa, the shchicha, it's normal for wild animals, wild beasts to go kill and prey on other animals. That's Moshiach Emelo. Maybe it's over there. There, the mazik should have to pay with it. It's his responsibility. Tzricha, he's a shomer sacher. He should deal with it. Aval treifa the shchicha. Emelo. If the shomer sacher has to pay for it, right? In the Pashup Shad, he doesn't pay for it because it was an ones. But let's say he was negligent, says Rashi. In the case of shomer sacher, he was negligent, and he allowed. And he was negligent in his guard duty, and he allowed the wolf to come in and damage and kill the animal that was under his guard. That's more shchiach because the animals do kill other animals. And below there, maybe the mazik should have to deal with the carcass. Kamash Mulan, no, the nizik does. Treifa, mishum the mela. Treifa by itself, I didn't do it. But there, I killed it with my own hands. I shot it, or I killed it. I strangled the animal. Whatever I did. Right, so you might say something that happens by itself. I didn't kill it. The wolf came and killed this animal. There, you say that mazik doesn't have to deal with it. But where the mazik killed the animal with his own hands, right? Under his guard, you know, he killed I went and killed your animal. Makabeh mishamena. I might think emelo. There, we don't make the nizik deal with it. We make the mazik deal with it. Kamashma in both cases, the nizik. Yeshmin and hani. If you tell me those two cases, hani tarti, those two cases. The first one where a person doesn't normally kill animals, therefore he shouldn't have to deal with the carcass. The nizik does. And the case of the shomer sacher who misguarded, I would say, misguarded the animal, but he didn't really do it directly. The wolf came in and did it. He was negligent in his guarding, but he didn't actually kill the animal. The wolf did. Avo mesi alo. The shchicha uviyadayim. Mesi alo means that the animals are mu'eh. So it normally would gore other animals. Uviyadayim, it's considered with his hands because it's your animal. It's not like a wolf that came in from out of nowhere from the forest and came and killed your animal. You knew it was your animal. It was under your guard. So it's viyadayim. It's your responsibility to do it. Kamasik emal lamazik l'troach. Right? Rashi says, the animal wanted to kill. In the case of goring, the animal wanted to gore the other guy. So it's like your diamond shomer sacher also he should have guarded it. in those cases where you should have guarded, Mesialo, the Shlichum Viadine, Amalo, you might think what? That there, the Nizik shouldn't have to deal with it. The Mazik should take care of it. And if you tell me Mesialo, the last case, you shouldn't do Mamona Kamazik. It's his mama doing the damage, meaning you're sure. Avalocha the Gugufa Kamazik over here in the case of the goof, either the person killing the other animal or the case of the Shomer Sacher, his negligence caused it to happen. Shomer Sacher Shepasha Benifba Rashi says Keniska Gufka Chashiv Sharihayola, he should have guarded it, and he didn't. So there it wasn't like the case of the shore boy, you could say there, your animal went out in the street and guarded another animal. But in the case where you were guarding the animal, Shomer Sacher, and you were negligent, it's like you did it with your own hands, right? Either where the case where the person, where the person killed the other guy's animal, or where the Shomer Sacher effectively killed it by being negligent and not guarding it and allowing the wolves to come in. Aimalo, they would think over there that the nizik shouldn't have to deal with it. Shricha, therefore we tell you that in all these cases, the nizik has to deal with the carcass. The nizik. In other words, the mazik just pays the 85, not this. Amalei Rav Kana. L'Rav, Ella, or L'Rav, Ella time because of Rahman of Mesi Alo. That's why we say that the nizik has to deal with it. I would think the nevela, the mazik, that the nevela, the mazik has to deal with it. He's got to deal with the $15 carcass. Hashta, what's the thing? What's the chiddush? Why would you think that? Hashta, if he doesn't have any money, doesn't have any fields to pay, or he doesn't have any cash. Kamatrefos, if he's only got some dead animals, he can pay it with that. If he's got to pay for Shakasa, he will subin to pay even garbage. What's the day boy? In other words, what's the point of that? You're saying if it wouldn't be for this, I would say that the mazik has to deal with the dead animal, right? But what do you mean? The mazik can pay with anything. If he doesn't have any good property, he doesn't have any cash, what could he pay with? Garbage, right? Whatever garbage he has. So he could say, listen, I owe you $100. Well, here's the first dollar. Here's the down payment, the $15 at the end. Here's your dead animal, that's 15, and I owe you the other 85. Like, what's the chiddush in that? Of course he would have to do that. What's the point of that? The mazik would have to pay? Why not? And I would think that available belongs to the mazik. If he could pay with garbage anyway, he could pay if he would have comment. Let's say he has not 15, not just this dead animal here. He has 6 other dead animals or 6 or 7 other dead animals. And so I'll take all these dead, I'll pay you with that too. He could pay, that's also good. He can pay with that too. Hashta. He is late dead commentary if it's Yovle. The boy, of course he could pay his own animal, the animal that belonged to Nizik. He could certainly give him that. We're stopping here. What does it mean? We're talking about pasna. This is the finish bit. You're right. Of course, the mazik could pay with anything. He could pay with garbage. He could say, "What's the big deal?" You say it belongs to the nizik. The $15 dead carcass belongs to the nizik, and the damager only have to pay 85. What's the big finish of that? Let's say I'd have to pay the whole thing. I could pay him with the dead animal too. I could pay with anything I have. Finish is this: that it's worth 15 shekels, $15 now when it died. But let's say by the time the nizik gets around to sell it at the marketplace or for animal feed or for whatever he sells it for fertilizer, goes down to $12 because it decreased in value. It starts stinking. It starts decomposing. That loss goes to the nizik, not the mazik. When we say the mazik can pay with garbage, you can pay with dead carcasses, sure, but what are the carcasses worth right now when I give it to you? Right? That's the point. Yeah. Yes, except there's nothing else to pay with. That's all I got. I have no property, no cash. I've got a bunch of dead animals over here killed by a tornado. You got to take that, what they're worth right now. So the chiddush that we say over here, the nizik gets the carcass, that the one who is damaged gets the carcass, is not the chiddush. Of course, the mazik can pay with the carcass too. The chiddush is that as soon as it's killed, it's the nizik's problem. And if by the time he sells it a few days later or a week later, it's gone down in value, that's the nizik's loss, not the mazik's loss. That's the point. All right, at this point, we're on the last line, and we'll pick it up here from the last line about this idea of chas nevela, depreciation of the nevela from the time that it was killed, at the time that I am responsible to pay you until you actually, sold it and got some money for it. Yeah.
Does the mazik have to bring the pile over to lift it out of the board, or does the nizik have to pay back, get it out of the board?
Okay, that's a good question. Who would have to pay to take it out? L'chora, then it's part of the nizik's problem because you say at that point it belongs to him. it's in his property, but it's really in the Rishus Harabim, because we're talking about a board Rishus Harabim. So yeah, it's a Nizik problem. As far as the Nizik problem. Good point. Have a good day, everybody. Shabbat Tov.
Yeah, beautiful.